Whoops.
Are we here? I can't.
Yeah, Chris, stop messing with everyone.
What's going on, everybody? Oh man, we're just messing with Adam because Adam changed everything up and he made that epilepsy-inducing intro. Hey, and I have to say, I do actually like the intro music. I can't say I've really ever listened to the intro music. That's kind of cool. Yeah, it's kind of neat.
I thought it was a dope intro, honestly. Yeah. Good job, Adam. Don't listen to these guys.
Thank you.
I agree. Not as dope as your hat, but I agree.
So what piece of this pie does Housh have? Because why is he even talking? He has no opinion in this matter. It's my opinion that matters, okay?
No, his opinion matters.
I'm the fucking guest.
That's right.
You're not in California, bro. Your opinion doesn't matter, okay?
Yeah, don't forget, Housh is coming live from an office that he's currently being evicted out of, it looks like.
That's true.
Oh my God.
This is my life, man. There's lots of stuff happening.
So
it looks like you're staying at the spare bedroom of somebody's house.
Slumber party.
All from the 50s.
Bill is brutal, man. You know, I was just messing around, but Bill's taking it to another level, dude.
It's like you're in the basement of a supply house right now.
Oh my God. Not the supply house, guys. That's like 1940.
What is a basement? I don't understand this basement term, guys.
Oh, it's right. You don't have basements in California.
No, if we had basements, they would get collapsed when the earthquakes happen and the house would fall down on
That's right. That's right. But if you did have a basement, you could hide in there from all the fires, though.
That's true.
I mean, I feel like California should just collapse on itself.
I think
probably the best move.
Yeah, but it was 98 degrees today, and it was kind of nice. So I know that you guys in the Midwest had some cold weather. You know,
bye.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
I think it's 98 degrees, right? Bye.
No, that's NSYNC, buddy.
Is it NSYNC?
Yeah. Or it might be Backstreet Boys. I don't know which one's which, man. Which one married Jessica Simpson? One of them.
90 degrees.
Yeah, Nick Lachey.
There you go. Yeah.
And
they made a porn video together, didn't they?
No, they did not.
Joe's like, I'm on Google right now.
Yeah,
is that another one?
Despite my praise.
So if you guys can't tell, we have a special guest on tonight, Mr. Michael Housh. Michael has been very active.
Little Housh on the prairie. That's good.
That could be your second Facebook group name.
Yeah,
little Housh on the prairie.
You guys are killer. What's amazing is I think somebody mentioned it earlier is that Mike knows us because he's still part of the community. So
actually, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And we don't have to, like Chris said, we don't have to walk on the eggshells of other guests. Yeah, we could just be free.
Michael, I didn't feel like I had to like hold back. I felt like I'm pretty safe to mess around with Michael, and I know he understands that I'm just joking. That, or he truly hates me and he's probably going to stab me one day. But
no, it's all in fun. It's kind of what the trade is about, right? You know, and we need genuine kind of friendships with people with kind of the way things are.
Swing joints.
Yeah. What the hell are you reading over there, Bill?
This stuff about boilers, man. This is wild stuff.
Can we not start the show off with boiler talk?
Like piping, we're going to expand at a different rate.
I like boilers, so we can go into it.
You're pushing me out. I'm the only person that doesn't know what a damn boiler is over here.
I mean, I did say you should drown a little bit ago, didn't I?
You drowned in a bathtub of your own tears, hippie.
Bill's trying to learn some more about boiler, guys. So
I'm trying to get smart because we got Housh on the show, and I don't want to look like an idiot.
But your new position, Bill, does require you to know more about boilers, doesn't it?
True, very true.
I'd say that Bill needs to run around with a cocking gun more often than working on boilers.
Oh my God!
What I think is interesting is that it all actually there's a lot of similarities between boilers and forced air systems that can be drawn, and so you just really have to look at your water flow like you would your airflow in a forced air system, and then you can draw a lot of similarities between the two. And so
it says right here what the swing joint's for, in case you were wondering.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was really wondering. Let me know.
This is required on cast iron boilers due to the different rates of expansion of the two metals. That's why there's a swing joint.
That makes sense. Kind of like why there's a flex duct.
Yeah,
I don't know what
guess
that
so.
is.
Advanced said in the chat. We mentioned that too, Bill. Advanced.
Hey, I got a question. Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Is your microphone on?
It should be.
Tap it. Oh yeah.
Well, maybe you just need to put it towards your face like more normal people with microphones.
There you go.
That's too close. It's like boing.
No.
How's that
Go a little bit
outside
closer.
going, Joe?
No, bring it closer. No, wait. Go back a little bit.
It's like watching Ricky
No,
Bobby.
bring
do
it
an interview.
closer. Bring it closer.
I don't know what to do with my hands.
Bring it closer. It needs to go closer. We can't hear you, dude. Bring it closer.
I'm
Now,
leaving it there.
Now go back and forth a couple times, like real fast.
You guys let me know when you're ready to go live. All
I
right.
almost fell for it. Just like the other episode. Anyways, first of all, let's listen, Bill. Put that book down. And you have to introduce us properly and say hi to our special guest, buddy. Not this special guest, our special what's his name?
Yeah, our little buddy Randy.
Yeah.
Little buddy Randy and his little buddy Luke.
Right.
All right. Well, let's get this.
When did Luke become a Chihuahua? Or is that Randy barking?
I programmed the wrong dog barking on the new
Which one wears the collar?
Right.
Let's get to the show today. Who we got in the chat? We got Jonathan Hughes, Mr. Big Clive, longtime best buddy of the show. Clive, I do apologize. I missed your show last weekend, and I might miss it again tomorrow because we're going on a very, very long road trip. But the rest of you guys don't have an excuse to miss Big Clive's show tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. Tune in for all sorts of crazy antics and whatnot.
And
Bill, I'm really eager to know, where are you going with your family?
The Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Is that like, because I don't know a whole lot about Michigan, but I do know where Mackinac Island is. Is that where that's at?
It's past that. Yeah, we're going a couple hours.
I've seen a lot of videos of Mackinac Island, and I feel
you can see some of those black bears up there in the Upper Peninsula.
Yeah, what are those called again, Joe?
What? I'm not looking at the screen.
What?
What are you doing up in the Upper Peninsula?
Oh, we're gonna go see the Shipwreck Museum.
You're asking me?
Yeah, it's gonna be
is that
wild.
the one they wrote the song about, the Edmund Fitzgerald?
Yeah, you know who wrote that song?
For some reason, it's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah, I can't remember it either right now.
No, it is on the tip of my tongue, but it's not like a fancy song. Yeah,
Gordon Lightfoot. Yeah, good song. But no, it's a nice place. Lots of trees, and 2 hours to get to anything you need. Good time though.
Good time. Sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to Mackinac Island though. I feel like my family.
You don't want to go there.
It's
Why
not that. I mean, I went there once.
It's not. It's a name. Like
it's not like this.
It's not as cool as it sounds. Really, maybe like a day trip, but don't plan.
Yeah,
you probably want to go to the Upper Peninsula for the rest of the trip. Just plan a day at Mackinac.
Like everybody thinks Mackinac Island is like part of a Hallmark movie.
That's why it's exactly the YouTube videos I watch make it like romantic. You write.
What is this Mackinac Island you speak of?
It's the world famous island, man.
It's just like an island in the Great Lakes or whatever kind of deal.
And you old rich white people.
Like I don't think you can even drive a car on the island. Like you have
bicycles and horses.
Yeah, there's
ridiculous.
I think there's only 2 cars on the island, and I forget why I know that.
Yeah,
but I was told there's only 2 cars. There's a fire truck. I think I was told one time.
Actually, I will say that a former president
are we talking about the
Mackinac Island, and he had his motorcade take him there. So it was like a big old controversy because he got his motorcade onto the island. Fancy.
Yeah.
You know what, guys? We have some hashtag bump dumpling for real, because we have some huge people in the chat. We got Eric Kaiser, we got Advanced Refrigeration, and all these.
Yeah, Jesus Tilapia, he's here again.
Jesus Tilapia. There's a few others. I see an HVAC Time, and we're talking about black bears in fucking Michigan.
Yeah,
we got Michael Housh on here. There's some good talk that could be.
I tell you, I don't trust my wallet around black bears.
Oh, interesting. You should not trust your picnic. That's hey
there, boo boo. How about the picnic basket?
Hey, hide your wallet. Hide your wallet.
Yeah. Okay. Let's change the subject there, Bill, before you end this like you've ended it before.
Yes.
No.
Awkward silence.
I want to start off because I cut you off today. I think we were talking all in chat, Adam, about that. That study guide for your employees. I'm like, you know what? Let's save this for the show.
Maybe we should talk about this later, huh?
Okay.
I'll bring it up. You want to talk about it real quick?
Yeah, let's talk about it real quick.
All right. So today I sent
details, just the general synopsis of it. You don't need to mention names.
Were you going to not mention names?
I don't know.
Well, I don't have to mention names, correct? Right.
Yeah.
All right. So I sent a couple the two guys that work for me together on a service call. They're pretty new and very inexperienced. And it was a humidifier service call. And they were there for a long time. And I found myself, I talked to them a couple times trying to walk them through it. And I was struggling and I was getting irritated that they were there for a long time. And then after the call was over, I was thinking, this is really my problem because I'm not doing a good job at teaching them what they need to be doing, and in the order they should be doing it. So for the heck of it, I started creating a flow chart just for like diagnosing a humidifier. And then I started going through all the different steps of where you would start, where you would, eliminate things. And there's a lot of steps to it, right? I was just thinking, when you've been doing it for a long time, you take things for granted, because you've done it so many times.
Of course. And
you don't realize how many steps there are. But when you bring yourself back to that point in the beginning and looking at the steps, you're like, wow, there's a lot of shit you got to look at,
Yeah.
Even something.
And it's all one things I'm taking away from that is the being upset that they were there for a long time. It seems understandable once you start looking at all the steps, and partially because I kind of learned from this sink or swim kind of thing. You kind of want them to take however much time that it takes, right? Well, and maybe learn something, maybe not. But there's more odds that they are going to learn something if you kind of let them try to figure it out on their own.
Right. Yeah. But I was thinking to come up with some type of, going back to Trevor, he was on our show and he said, you need to have a process in teaching. So I was thinking if I do come up with certain different flow charts for certain situations, they don't have to study it. They don't have to be married to it. They could play with at a call. And then if they get stumped on something, look at the flow chart and then walk their way through it. Because I don't know if you've been in this situation, but I find myself close to my phone. I wonder how they're doing now. Do you think things are going well? I don't know, and then
I find that because I struggle when I have a guy doing something that's complex. And then I think, okay, well, I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to hover. But at the same time, you're like, when do I call him? Okay, I'm going to give it 20 more minutes. And then if I don't hear from him, I'm going to call him, but I get that same feeling. I'm like, I don't want to tell them how to do their job, and I don't want to micromanage, but at the same time, I don't want them to go down a rabbit hole and then be way deep in it. And the customer's like, what the hell's this guy doing?
Right. You need to let them do their thing, but you also need to support them in a way where they can learn,
So something I told my apprentice, and we were talking about it the other day, and I brought it up again today, is because I was letting him brazen a compressor and stuff today. And I told him, I go, look, I said, remember what I told you is that right now, I'm not going to let you do things that I'm worried about. I said, you're at a point right now where I'm going to put you on things that I feel confident in, and I'm not rushing you. Okay. So I said, you take whatever time you need. I don't care how long it takes. I want you to do it right. And you do whatever you have to do. I said, but remember, there's going to come a time when we're going to start talking about time management and we're going to start talking about efficiency. But right now, I just want you to take your time and do it right.
So how do you actually manage the workflow through the day then? Let's say you have 2 calls scheduled for the morning.
I don't have schedules. On the commercial side, I don't have schedules. I have a call and I have an idea in my head. Like last night, we were thinking we were going to do an install today on walk and eat cooler evaporators. And then something changed and I got to the office this morning and I said, you know what? No, we're not going to do that. I'm going to take this call that's on a rooftop. So we were outside there and I focus on that one call. Unless an emergency service call comes in that's more critical than what I'm working on, I don't care how many calls we have on the board. I'm getting done what I got to get done.
You also, no matter how internally the schedule is managed, what I always tell my guys is that the call that you're on is the most important call of your day, right? Yeah. And so you need them to be empowered to look at it that way. Of course, you know, when we're talking apprentices and stuff, that's a little bit harder, but with your experienced techs, if they think it's going to take 6 hours, you need to give them those 6 hours or whatever, and have some leniency, because really serving the customer is what drives business, right? You know, I mean, and so
I think at the top of that whole sheet, just like Eric Kaiser in chat said, you guys all have to agree with this. A troubleshooting process should start with the sequence of operations. Yeah, you have to know the sequence of operations.
Exactly.
Right? You have to know. Well, let's preface that with saying I feel like you have to know a general sequence of operation, because there's going to be times that we walk on something we don't know what we're doing, but we know it's a chiller, we know it's a walk-in freezer, a boiler, and we know a general idea of what's going to happen. But as an experienced tech, you can walk in and go, okay, I think it operates like this. Oh no, this one's a little different. So, but it's a general sequence of operation for sure.
So I think he's referring to Housh.
Yeah.
I hope he's referring to Housh.
Who?
I mean, Joe doesn't talk a lot.
He put on
that's a good point. We didn't really introduce Housh.
Yeah, we knew this.
Well, that was because Bill was sitting on his butt reading a stupid boiler.
Reading a book right in the middle of live stream time.
I agree.
That's like I was started taking phone calls.
Unprofessional.
Very
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised.
I agree.
So who wants to introduce Housh then?
One of you guys.
Well, really?
We can make you can find me on the interwebs. Apparently, I'm the Doc Brown of HVAC, and I'm here tonight gracing you with my presence.
There we go.
That is who I am, with a bunch of pussies.
That's a fair statement.
I can tell with that room. I'm sure you're just nailing bitches left and right.
Every day.
Every day, he says.
All day.
Non-stop.
You know,
I got those 70s vibes going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Got a water in the corner.
Like, is it hot in here?
98 degrees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Back to the beginning.
And then the chick is like, yeah, it's hot in here. And then you're like, well, maybe the dew point is getting a little bit above the... We should probably see if we can get some sort of dehumidifying device in this room before we get it out.
I like how you
maybe we need more airflow in here.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So
let's measure.
On that topic, I've been... Are you writing an app, Housh? Is that what you're doing? Or is it like what is it?
No, I mean... That may come out of what I do. I play with software more. It helps me understand problems differently, and understand the math behind things a little bit better. And so, like, I'm pretty much self-taught in everything. And so it just allows me to like connect pieces together a little bit better, and maybe things that other people already know or knew and forgot or whatever. But having never gone to like a formal trade school or whatever, it seems like my kind of method in playing around with spreadsheets and software and stuff helps me understand kind of deeper principles of our trade, I would say.
Yeah. Or people that have gone to trade school and haven't looked at any of the manuals or low calculation. It's something that you... yeah, go ahead.
No, I saw there was a post. I can't remember the post now on Facebook the other day, where you posted somebody posted something, and I asked a question. Yeah, it was one of your spreadsheets. And I asked a question. I said, if you have an existing system and you have a new target airflow and you want to upgrade the size of the filter, and you want to figure out, you have a known pressure drop on the existing filter and a known pressure drop on the new filter at a certain CFM, how would you figure that out? And then Who responded first? Was it Dave Richardson?
Yeah. And so he misunderstood the question a little bit and used fan law to basically estimate static pressure. It's all based off the same kind of math. I just express it a little bit differently in my calculation or whatever, but that's what I find interesting is some of these like predictive calculations, right? Like, so how can I predict what's going to happen, and how true is that to what actually happens, right? And so I don't know that I have enough data to say how true some of it is, or if it needs some like correcting or whatever, but I am trying to base it all off of ASHRAE journals, which are horrible to read if anyone's ever read them or whatever. I mean, like, they're next to impossible to understand for someone that isn't an engineer or gone through this deep kind of training or whatever. I mean, so I'm trying to make some of that stuff more accessible and usable to people, or maybe inspire people by making it less mystified or something, I guess, maybe.
I think that's important because there's a lot, especially when it comes to airflow and psychrometrics and stuff that, and I know it's different, but in general, when someone can demystify that, it's like a mind explosion. You're like, oh, that makes sense. So I can do everything with this chart and figure out everything in the system. So if you can demystify anything like that, that's a moment for me where it's just like, whoa, that makes sense, you know, and that would help a lot of people, or it does help. You know?
And you need to be able to apply the stuff, right? And so this is what's cool about things like Measure Quick and stuff. Like, you really don't have to know what you're doing in order to use the platform, right? But it may spark an interest down the road to dig deeper into stuff, right? And so,
and I would say too, though, with and I love Measure Quick, and before that, the iManifold app and all these different ones, they're amazing. They really do help, but it is also really easy, if you do not understand anything about what you're doing, to mess that up completely. I mean, something as simple as using Measure Quick, taking your discharge line clamp and putting it on the liquid line and swapping them. If someone doesn't understand it, that's going to throw everything off, you know? So
yeah, but it's also pretty easy to teach, like, all right, this one with the red dot goes here. And, you know, so you can get someone into kind of deeper measurements with less of an understanding of what they're actually doing. And that's important in kind of the society or how everything is, right? Where there's a tech shortage. And so you need people to be able to go out there and do work and have some sort of confidence in it, right? Like, this is hard as a business owner, I feel like, because I'm also very particular and stuff, and at least having these measurements that I can recheck and stuff like that allows me to have more confidence to send them out sooner.
And being a business owner, you know, I'm sure you feel the same, and this makes sense, but you are limited by your weakest employee. It doesn't necessarily mean that your whole company is going to hold on them, but I mean, you are limited by that person. So the more you can advance him and or her and help them grow up, you know, and excel, for sure. So it's a good idea.
And you need to bring someone else in to get started, right? Because it's a journey, right? It doesn't happen overnight. And so like, it takes a long time to start building these people up and getting them to a good point of you know, being successful on their own, kind of thing. And so
there's a question. They were at, who was it?
There's a couple good questions.
Yeah, they were who was it? He was asking about, were we talking about the MERV rating on a filter? Well, kind of. We were talking about basically modifying the filtration system or changing the size and maybe the thickness of a filter. And what would that do to your static pressure of the system?
The pressure drop across it. It has nothing to do with the MERV rating or anything. It's really more about the pressure drop, right? So in Adam's scenario, he was talking about, let's say we had a 0.4 pressure drop across a filter. What happens to everything else if you make some upgrades and put a filter in that has a 0.1 pressure drop? And maybe also at the same time, you're increasing the airflow. What happens then, and what are your pressures going to do? And velocities and things like that, right? And so these are some of the predictive things that we were talking about, right? And trying to solve so that people aren't going in blind because, like.
Where were you guys plotting this anyways? What was this for?
It was just like a hypothetical.
It was hypothetical.
All right. Knowing I've known how long have I known you? 6 months, 8 months, something like that now? Something like that.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
In the short time that I've known him, this guy has so many freaking cool spreadsheets that just figure shit out magically. Yeah. So here's a question about your spreadsheets. Are you going to make them available to anyone? If
they're all available, like everything that I make everything available. This is part of, and me and Chris were kind of talking about this in the chat last week, where because I feel like I'm self-taught, I'm free with my information giving kind of deal, right? And so
where do you give it at?
Wherever. I mean, either ask me. It's in most of the Facebook groups that I'm a part of, linked. But anything that someone has an interest in, I likely have a spreadsheet for it. And part of what I'm trying to do is kind of consolidate all that, because it's a little bit of a mess right now. They're like spread out amongst lots of different sheets and everything. And I'm trying to make it a little more easy to utilize. But that may be a little bit
I'm trying to remember the point of the post that we were talking about, Michael, but I do remember, I don't know though. What was the point of that post that we were talking about giving information out? I don't know.
Well, it was actually during last week's show. You were talking about it with Trevor Matthews and how I don't remember all the details necessarily. I just remember kind of thinking about how it seemed like me and you were on the same page where we were free with giving things away. Like you were talking about people commenting on your videos of you shouldn't share that because I paid X amount of dollars to learn it, right? Like,
and I don't understand that. Right? I think that a lot of that comes from the insecurity of people thinking that their job is going to be replaced. Like they're going to lose their job because they're going to teach someone more than themselves. But in all reality, when you look at the grand scheme of everything, I mean, people have to excel beyond our knowledge for this to continue. There's always got to be someone that's smarter. And us as technicians, I don't think we ever have. I mean, as long as you're a good, competent technician, you're going to be employed for the rest of your life. I mean,
I think that's like chicken to think that way, right? You know what I mean? Like it's totally just being a wuss about things. And there were people smarter than us that taught this stuff, or, maybe we didn't it didn't click with us before, the stuff is like, it all boils down to like physics and things that are
way beyond
known by people that are way smarter than us, right?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's the sharing of knowledge, I think, is really important. And I feel like, yes, there's a point at which, you should be able to survive off of the knowledge that you share. So yeah, there's some people that have gotten to a point that they can go and do a seminar or something like that, you know, so be it. But
yeah, and that you know, their slides and stuff can be proprietary or whatever, right? You know, that's understandable. I mean, some people make a living.
And I think that's everybody's individual choice to be able to choose whether or not they want to do that. But for me, I share the little bit of knowledge that I have, and I genuinely feel that it is a little bit of knowledge because I recognize the fact that there's so much more to learn.
You know what? I bet those same guys that are like, we can't share anything, it's dangerous to let people know what we know. Those are the same guys that are going to turn around probably and be like, where are all these new generation of technicians coming from? You know, there's nobody wants to get in this trade. You know, we can't find good guys and this and that.
Yeah, right. All together.
Yeah, I mean, they're the same guys that don't want to carry the tools and want to treat people like they're dirt or whatever instead of respecting them like a human being or whatever, you know? And so, unfortunately, like there's a lot of that testosterone or whatever in our trade that just kind of needs to go away. And I think it is as some of the older generations fading out, but it leaves us with not a whole lot coming up as part of the problem, right?
I think it's kind of a generational ignorance, if that makes sense, because it's slowly passed on from generation to generation. And in a perfect world, each time we try to improve that. So that way, I mean, I do things differently because I think like, hey, I didn't have this or I didn't have that when I was growing up. So I give that to my kids to an extent. But then I also think, okay, but I still need to be careful because they got to learn lessons. And I feel like over time we evolve. So like you're kind of mentioning, as the generations kind of fade out, you know, we hope that we're going to advance and change a little bit and make things better and not throw people off the roof because, you know, and that mentality of, you know, I'd kick them out, I'd fire him for that. And it's like, I mean, is that really a fireable offense? You know, coach him, you know, teach him. You know, and
you're only fired if you're not breathing. You know,
that's a good point. You can steal and lie and cheat and lie about.
I mean, it's rough times out there with everything, and so you know, last I checked, like the average age in the trade is 58 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's
bunch of geriatrics out here, man.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of crazy.
Is gonna make like some sort of tool pouch you can put on walkers.
So if you're coming up in the trade and you have an old timer that's teaching you, please address him as Gray Bush.
Gray Bush.
It's a gray beard. What's happening?
Rick's Survival in the chat said yes, hell yes, share it all. I agree, and that's what makes I think Michael Housh so known is he's in HVAC school, he's in our group, sharing his knowledge, helping the guys out, and trying to be less discouraged coming into the straight. I think it's awesome.
I want to point something out too to compliment Michael is that when he does share, it doesn't necessarily, I don't think I've ever seen an instance where there's been an attitude shared with it, because don't get me wrong, there's some great knowledgeable people on the internet too that share information in Facebook and different things like that, but they have the worst attitude.
Condescending a little bit.
Yeah, very condescending.
Well, I mean, and I'll be condescending a little bit in a playful manner to people, you know what I mean? But but only when I have some sort of relationship there to begin with, right? You know, but
I mean, we met like what 27 minutes ago, and I already feel like it's okay for me to say really, really mean things to you, you know?
Go for it.
You did that the first
minute. Already have.
I know.
Oh, that's true, I guess.
See, Bill, you've already hurt his feelings, dude.
I apologize.
He just said that.
No, we were talking a while back about aggressively sizing equipment, and there's going to be a competition. How low can you go? And we were talking about, you know, having like a little fake award for how low you can go. And I'm like, well, for my house, if I do this, am I going to win an award? And Housh's answer is like, well, if it's for your own house, it's going to be like the Rainbow Unicorn Award.
The Rainbow Unicorn Award.
Yeah. I mean, and the, I mean, awards like that are kind of tricky, right? There's a lot of variables there. Like if you're putting something in California and Chris's climate versus up north here, like how do you do that? But I do like to call people out for being wimps online. You know what I mean? Like while I appreciate like the comments and that I do try to remain somewhat professional or whatever, I'm also not afraid to speak my mind when I think that things are could be pushed a little further, right? And I do it completely out of respect for people, because sometimes you need like a slap in the face, right?
It's true.
You know, I mean,
I've had that in the last year or so, realizing I've always known equipment's oversized. I just didn't really realize how oversized the majority of the equipment is. You know what I mean? And now I'm at the point where somebody's posted a comment on Facebook and they're like, so I just finished installing this 5-ton unit. I just want to respond right away and be like, oversized. It's oversized.
Hey, you know what? You see the basement, eh? You see the basement. Well, I mostly see the basements. You see the basement, and you could tell just by the way it looks. It ain't no huge house.
Yeah.
Right? It's a 1,300 square foot house. Right?
Right.
But you know, that's at the same time, I've done that 1,000 times too. Right? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that I'm perfect by any means, right? I go out there and screw up every day. That's what makes us who we are. And not being afraid to kind of share and admit that is also a good quality, I feel like, in my opinion, right? I mean,
everyone's afraid though, because especially in this trade, especially on Facebook too, everyone's so judgmental and they're like, you idiot, you suck. Look at that word.
Who are they though, right? You know what I mean? Like it's
well, that's something that I deal with too, that it's just, and I see it kind of on a different scale, because I get people criticizing me, whatever, emailing me, whatever. But someone said something to me the other day on a stream, and they said, you know what, you're not making your videos the right way. You need to pay attention. And this was the whole thing. You're not making your videos the right way. Your outros are too long. Look at your analytics. YouTube will tell you that people aren't watching the whole way through the video. And okay, that's fair. I accept criticism. I'm cool with it. It's fair, but I don't have to.
And then Chris's response.
You also, like, people don't necessarily understand your motives or why you're doing it, right? Like maybe you don't care as much about the production or whatever, but like it's also a thing where sometimes comments are different if, say, they came from someone you know and respect versus some joker on the internet, right? You know, and so you have to be able to draw the lines. And of course, sometimes people take things more personally than someone else would or whatever. That's just kind of the way things work. But at the end of the day, you got to be yourself and be comfortable with being yourself, and other people can do what they do,
and
right?
Accept the fact that there's going to be ramifications, but you know those ramifications and you accept them. And that's what I told the gentleman. I said, no offense, but I said, I don't make these videos to get views and whatever. I make them for my employees, and then I share them with the internet because I want to. So I feel that the end of the video has sometimes more context, and it saves me time from answering questions. And I say, hey, you know what? I know I screwed this up, but I did this because of this. And
then at the end of the video, or at the end of your response, you put PS. How many subscribers do you have?
Big Clive makes a good point. He says, people always have opinions. I frequently get told how I should run my channel by people with zero content themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I mean, one of the things I like about Chris's videos, because it's a different aspect of the trade than what I typically deal with, but I'm able to get like bits and pieces to help. It's all related, right? You know, I mean, and it all goes back to like the boiler stuff before, right? All this stuff comes down to like more fundamental math and science than we like typically operate on, right?
Yeah.
Like we operate in this specific field, but in reality, if you understand some of the fundamentals below it, it makes everything easier.
Yeah.
Like when you're operating in these different scenarios.
And I don't know about you guys, but for me, sometimes, and I don't go crazy like Bill, I don't go crazy like Housh, my definition of crazy, but you know, sometimes I start thinking and it's like, oh, wow. And I get to really wandering like, oh, okay, so this happens and then this happens and that happened because of this happened. But then I'm able to shut it off. Are you able to shut that off, Michael or Bill? Because both of you guys are very curious type people.
Or do I sleep. Define shutting it off, right?
Bill and I had a conversation the other day about him asking a question. I don't remember. What was it about, Bill?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Well, I think curiosity, and obviously, you know, Bill's known as the curious HVAC guy or whatever. And so my curiosity never stops, and I'm constantly thinking on lots of levels of different things, you know, I mean, and so it's not always rewarding necessarily either, right? But you have to travel down a bunch of different paths to try to.
Yeah. And I think in a weird way too, and sometimes I do obsess and I plan everything out. Now I'm curious for you guys, when that happens, for me, I want to come home and I'll pick a TV show or a movie and I hyper focus on that. Or I pick for me a Western. If I can watch a Western.
Oh man, you're a Western guy. I never would have.
Oh yeah, dude. Westerns are my favorite. But my wife is like, I don't understand. And I go, it's my way of coping. Like I tune everything out and I just focus on this Western that is so slow and has no point. And I'm just like,
no CGI, no dinosaurs,
nothing, horrible acting, but it's just like, it's like a therapeutic thing for me to shut the way my brain off works for a moment.
So I consume a lot of like scientific content, I would say, right? So and the things that are outside of what my normal like day-to-day activities are, like I like watching people work on cars and I like space things, and so I tend to consume a lot of things that are still kind of science related or get my mind thinking, but not I don't necessarily try to shut it off, I guess.
Real quick, the question, he's probably long gone now. He's gone to sleep and he's already at work for the next day. But do you like the TrueFlow grid? And then I want to talk about your house system, your Housh system, the Frankenstein. Yeah,
Dr. Housh.
Yeah. So on the TrueFlow, I've only had it for a couple weeks, so my measurements and experience is limited. But so far, I think it's awesome and kind of a game changer on. Like I literally gave it to my business partner who is, you know, he was a banker before we joined together, right? He's a smart guy. But he literally figured it out with no instruction by me in 5 or 10 minutes, right? And so I think that's awesome with the TrueFlow grid.
I can't wait for the evolution of the TrueFlow grid to where we can use it in commercial.
Rooftop units.
Package units, oh my gosh, mind explosion. But anyways.
Well, yeah, that's actually part of what I want to play with as well in my system, where I need multiple ones at the I need readings for multiple TrueFlow grids at the same time.
Yeah.
And I want to play with how that works a little bit. So, because apparently, which I won't reach their maximum flow rate, but each flow grid can only do like 2,500 CFM or something like that, right? So if you're doing a 10-ton commercial system, you're going to have multiple in there. And so I'd be interested to see how it kind of works, because that's not like a supported way of using them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I had a airflow a guy come out to one of my commercial restaurants. He was an auditor for the local energy company that had given a rebate to one of my customers. And so he was auditing, 5 years later to see where it was at. And I watched him pulled out the old True Flow grid, and it was a 15-ton package unit. And it was ridiculous how many he had. And he had them all stacked in there, and they just looked so like, that doesn't seem right, dude. It seems like just all those tubes coming out seem like, doesn't seem like this is all going to add up right. So I'd be intrigued. I'm so interested in seeing where this goes in the future and how it's going to evolve from that.
So just talk on Housh HVACs real quick and ties into that. So I do know that Jim is talking about integrating it with Measure Quick. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out, because I also had some conversation online where apparently like the True Flow grid isn't actual SCFM or ACFM.
Let's talk about this for a second.
Yeah.
What is SCFM? What is ACFM?
So SCFM is the CFM at your standard barometric pressure or something, right? Like it's sea level with 0% humidity and a certain air temperature, which I am not recalling what that is, right? And ACFM is corrected for your conditions that you have now, right? So your density changes with your altitude and your percentage of humidity in the air. And so ACFM, or what I would say is like actual CFM, and I don't know if that's correct or not, but and then SCFM is standard CFM, which like I said stands for the standard air is what they call it. And so it's like I said, 0% humidity at sea level and
like a base measuring point,
70 degrees or something, right? Something like that. And so
I saw Bergman post about it, and he said it's not one or the other. It's kind of in between both of them, how it works.
Yeah, and so that I haven't dug into a little bit deeper. So there are like how airflow is like the trickiest thing in our industry, probably. And so, and especially to like measure it accurately. And there's different ways of measuring are either density dependent or density independent, right? Like, so a vane anemometer doesn't care about the density, but a hot wire anemometer does. And the True Flow would be like a pitot array. And so there is probably some density things that corrections that could be applied. You know, we're probably talking about very small ratios at this point, right? So you're like splitting hairs a little bit. But during that conversation, I kind of realized like maybe I don't know what these terms actually are. And so take everything I just said with a grain of salt, because I may be completely wrong. And I'm fine with that.
That's like kind of how we roll on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, my opinion could change tomorrow, right? And so.
Yep.
So what about your Housh system? Tell us about that a little bit.
Okay, so my house is kind of unique in where I have a pretty big volume that has a pretty low load. And my house is also very leaky and complicated to fix. So part of my idea is like I have trouble maintaining humidity, but I also need more airflow than my 2-ton system provides on the like 2,000 square feet that it covers, right? And so I'm essentially trying to provide say 1,000 to 1,200 CFM while limiting my coil airflow to be in the 600 to 800 CFM range. And so then I'm doing less sensible work. I'm controlling humidity, getting longer run times, all with a single stage system. And so I essentially have a bypass around my coil that I intend to kind of have like a somewhat, I wouldn't call it constant volume because I'll have several different blower speeds, but I want to be able to control the volume, that my total volume versus what passes by my coil.
So I'm assuming you gotta use like at least probably two dampers. You can
I mean, in a real world, you would use 2 dampers because I am cheap and I'm using what I had at my shop. I have 5 total dampers.
Oh, wow.
And 2 duct systems. But I think what I want to try to gather data on is I think this could be simplified where you had like a commercial style damper that has one motor with opposing blades, right? And so something like this could be simplified into a single unit that then got installed in someone's return air system and controlled air differently or bypass differently based on and so I think there's ways to simplify it. I'm just, like I said, cheap and using what I have, and also in this kind of experimental way, more dampers are better because I can tweak and, you know, kind of play with, maybe I close one all the way and one halfway or whatever to get a certain amount of airflow through a certain duct. And so,
and you also have you're using hot water for reheat dehumidification. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm hoping that I don't have to use that, but it does have hot water. So I have a boiler system and I heat with baseboard heating. And so I have the system set up in a way that basically my cooling coils in the return, and I have a hydronic air handler ahead of that. And so I would be able to reheat. That is like way lower on my priority list of things to hook up. So that may or may not ever actually be hooked up. It depends on if I need it or not. I'm kind of hoping that that I can combat a lot of my humidity problems by just controlling the air across the coil.
Now that, sorry, I missed that. You have the reheat coil, I guess, ahead of the evaporator, you're saying?
It would be after the evaporator. Yes. So,
makes sense. Okay.
So I could reheat with it. And I also have like a heat pump water heater and a bunch of other ways. Like, I'm into hydronics, so I would love to utilize hydronics, but at the same time, that's like probably less adoptable in a lot of parts of the country.
Yes, I hear you.
And so you have to kind of think about these things on different levels.
We could almost have another show about hydronics, and I know a lot of guys in the chat, text guys, love to hear about it.
I'm curious about all of us on the show, everybody, and I'm curious about the people watching the show too in the chat. But like, do you guys all have these grand thoughts? Like, I'll spend hours thinking about different things that I want to do to my home to like do weird things to the air conditioning system or adjust this, because like I just sit there and fantasize about that stuff. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's my playground really in my shop. Like, I literally discovered that our shop system, when I got the True Flow Grid, we have a way oversized air conditioner. It's 4 tons. We've locked it onto single stage. It's a 2-stage air conditioner, so it should be at like 70%. I'm moving like 3 tons, right? So I test my airflow with the TrueFlow grid, and apparently at some point in time, I adjusted the airflow, and I'm getting 800 CFM with this 3-ton system, and like it all works great, really. You know what I mean? But I'm like discovering that, like, because I tinker with stuff. It's like what I do and how I have ideas and you know, connect pieces together. And so, but lo and behold, our system's been running at this shitty airflow for who knows how long, you know what I mean? And it works awesome. So I'm not changing it, but now I know.
I have to say that I've been joking around on social media. You know, sometimes my wife will post something from her Instagram account, and then sometimes I'll joke around and be like, I have a dummy thermostat installed so that she really doesn't have control. Like I joke and I say that, right? And I've said it so many times that my wife is like, is that real? Do you really have a dummy thermostat? And I'm like, no, but I'm really thinking about doing it. I really,
you know, we're talking. Sorry, I was just gonna say we're talking about all this tinkering of our houses. Look at Adam, what he did to his house. What was it, last year?
I got it. It's still working. It's good.
Wait. This is after the compressor replacement, though.
Yeah,
that's
right.
Figure out what happened to that compressor.
It did. I made a fatal mistake on the original design.
Why don't you explain briefly what it was, quick?
But it's working. I basically just I have a furnace in my garage, and I have an evaporator coil on the furnace, and I just want to see if I can get it working with one condenser. I have a Train 2-stage condenser outside, and I teed into the line set right before the evaporator coil downstairs, and I ran the lines out to the garage. I have a liquid line solenoid downstairs before that coil after the tee, and a liquid line solenoid outside at the evaporator coil. And the way I have it set up with a couple different relays is I have it could run on first or second stage for the house. And then if it's running just the garage, it runs only on first stage. And then if it runs in the house and the garage, no matter what, it bumps up into second stage. So it works.
Nice. And you have solenoids for, okay, I got you.
I mean, I think it's good to play. The downside comes like, and what I think about a lot of times is like, when I die, what's going to happen?
Oh, they're tearing that out, and they're going to put a single stage
going away,
baby.
Yeah,
everything you built is gone. That's
they're going to get IQ products.
In my, you know, hopefully I've got some time to go on, and I'll
J-Dub will be there.
That's exactly Bill's joking in the background, but that's so true. They're going to have a traveling like salesman from the HVAC company, and he's going to come in there and sell them on this new system, because this is so antiquated, but it really means he just doesn't understand it, you know. And he's just gonna be like, all right, new system, change out.
So we're gonna upgrade your filtration to this 1-inch electronic.
Yeah.
Sell you some Remy's.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, go to town over here.
Yeah.
Bill and
like it's all it is kind of similar to like what I'm doing, right? Because I'm a third generation, and so I live and work out of the building that our company originated out of 50, 60 something years ago, right? And so I'm finding all these things that aren't up to my level of understanding now, right? You know, and so I get that my grandpa was doing the best he could and all that stuff, but there are some flaws with how he set it up, right? And so I'm trying to make it my own kind of thing, and it's already like my building is super complex. It's hard to explain. And unless you've been here, you don't understand what I'm dealing with, kind of deal. So
with that being said, and when you're saying multi-generational, did you learn the trade from the previous generation? Did you learn from your dad?
Yeah, more my dad's cousin, I would say. So my dad. And my dad still works. He works for a different company. He's a salesman. But my dad is very good at selling things.
Gotcha.
And also has a lot of knowledge. Don't get me wrong, but it's just different, right? Yeah. And so, but we've also, like, we've never been afraid of things, right? And so, like, we produced our own geothermal system, and that's part of how I learned what I know, was kind of like having to deal with that stuff. And so, like, we've always been like experiment and risk takers, I would say, you know what I mean? And so, but currently our roles are different, where, you know, I'm probably more like my dad was at the age that I currently am, versus now he's like, why would you fool with airflow and all this stuff? It's worked like this for so many years, right?
Yeah, it's not broke, don't fix it, damn it.
So Joe, did you, I don't know what we've ever really talked about this stuff, but did you learn the trade from your dad, or the trade mentality at all?
No.
Joe learned it from the mafia.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. What about, I mean, I assume you did, Adam, right? You learned from your dad?
Yep. And my dad, he's good. I mean, he's also very good at selling. And I think the big thing is too, when you learn from your dad, I know, Chris, you grew up with, you know, learning from your dad as well too.
Yeah.
The knowledge is moving at a much faster rate now than it was back then. Before it was like, find a book, read the book, figure it out. And the books were freaking dry. And
you could get away with so much more back then too. You know, you could fudge things up. You're not perfect, but it worked fine. You know, it's forgiving, you know?
Yeah, it was way more forgiving dealing with R22 and stuff. And they were also like, part of me thinks like they would drive you to these other things because they really didn't know either, right?
You know what I mean? That's a really good point. So I still work with my dad. Now my dad doesn't really work anymore. He comes out and helps on like big jobs and stuff, but he's an office person now. And we are total opposites now though. But it's interesting what I learned from him and the things that I learned from him too. You know, like maybe I didn't learn the right way to charge an air conditioner.
Learn from the ghost in the basement.
But it made me curious. Like, okay, wait, that doesn't sound right, Dad. So then I started looking a little bit deeper, you know, and then so I got good things from him, and then I also got, you know, bad advice, but then I learned from that advice. So I still consider it good. You know, one way or another, I changed it and I made it something good.
Yeah, I mean, my dad like comes to me for advice on things. Like, he realizes, you know, his level of where he's at or whatever. And it's kind of like an awesome flip of how things work. Because there's plenty of other things in my life that I've screwed up royally and needed to rely on my dad, right?
Yeah.
You know? And so it's a good feeling having things kind of flipped, and his respect and appreciation for all of that stuff, because we do, like, we service different kind of things. Like, his company he works for are residential new construction. And they work for pennies on the dollar, but they do 9 gazillion jobs. Right. And so it's a different market that we're going after and everything.
Yeah.
But there are complex things that come up, and he needs some kind of more experience, because they're unfortunately part of the problem with the residential market, at least, where, you know, there's a lot of duct systems and things, oversized equipment that are just performed very poorly. But this is what builders pay for, and their company is.
And to be fair, though, too, like they're competing in a market with like-minded companies, and they're all competing for the same thing. So they're going to do the least amount possible. And yes,
it's not their fault at all.
It's not their fault. I mean, they're
providing the service that
we demand. No, that's what it is. That we
it's the industry standard. And I was reading, I don't know, it was an article or something a week or so ago, where they said that HVAC contractors have become very good at conditioning customers to live with bad performing systems.
Fair statement. Yeah.
You know, so like you have a bedroom over a garage, second floor, and it's like,
yeah, it's never going to work right.
Yeah,
put a mini split in it
right.
or whatever, right? You know, like and this is like a huge challenge, right? And it's really like, in my mind, it's the consumer's fault. It's not really our fault necessarily, or like builders maybe are better to blame, but it's not like, you can't really blame the HVAC company that's providing that service necessarily.
No, I would say that you'd almost blame the consumer for not being educated on how to choose that contract. Yeah. I mean, we as consumers are ignorant for a lot of things. We just want what's convenient to us, and we don't want to do work for it, to have to work for it, you know? Mm-hmm. Before we go further with that, Bill, what about you? I don't think we've ever asked you. Did you learn any of this from your dad?
No. Nope.
Even in a way of like a mentality, or?
No, all the wonderful things I did learn from my stepdad, that wasn't one of them. No, everything I learned about HVAC, I actually learned screwing up shit on top of rooftops, reading manuals, YouTube videos.
Yeah.
That's where my background comes from.
I honestly like got into the commercial trade and was able to like screw things up and work on like dinosaur equipment and stuff. And I kind of like realized how much I knew at that point. Like I felt kind of stupid going into that role or whatever. But then like I was an apprentice under someone else and I knew more than they did, and like so it was a weird dynamic happening or whatever, but like I kind of had freedom to screw things up too.
Yeah, like that's always a great way to do it. And like I like learning new things, but what I always find myself having an internal argument about is like I do like learning new things, but man, sometimes those new things are frustrating as hell, and I'm like, God, you know, swearing to myself, why am I in this? Why am I doing this? Yada, yada, yada. But then I'm done. I'm like, that was a pretty good time.
So to address RJ's comment, he said, give me a break. Consumers' fault because companies are bad. I would say that there's a little bit of fault on the consumer. I mean, yes, you have manipulative companies, but I mean, they're also just preying on the people that are ignorant. And
well, we also have to clarify the conversation, right? True. So a lot of this is that I'm speaking of has to do with new construction, and builders are probably driving this maybe more than consumers.
Oh yeah.
But this is a there's blame to go around to everyone, right? I mean, I think we should be clear there.
Yeah,
you know,
we've been for a long time, as at least residentially, there's been a race to the bottom. You know, it's who's going to do the job for the lowest, because in the States, let's be honest, everyone wants something really nice for their house, but they don't want to pay a lot for it. Where can I get it the cheapest price? You know, and that's generally how it works.
Well, and so I looked back at some documents. So one of the good and bad things about my company is like we literally still have files from the 50s and shit that we deal with, right? But back in my grandpa's day, the HVAC system was probably 20% of the new construction build, where now it's 5 to 8% of it, right? And so that's where the problem lies. But how do you get the builder and or the homeowner to put 20% of the home construction into the HVAC instead of granite countertops or whatever, right? And so these are kind of the realities of how the world has changed. And so that's where I find on some level it's hard to necessarily blame the HVAC company that's offering that service and can figure out how to run a profitable business for pennies and doing horrible work, right? There's like, that's where it just becomes like one of these really gray areas of, is it really the HVAC company's fault?
And that's kind of, that is the point. And I wasn't saying that it's a consumer's fault that they got ripped off. I'm saying that in general, it's us as a whole that's doing that, because that's the way we're demanding certain things. So of course, a contractor is wrong if they're going in preying on little old ladies and selling them every single thing. No, I'm not excusing that crap. I'm just saying the general idea that this is all happening because we're demanding certain things.
Like when the Prince of Nigeria calls me and tells me I need to send him $1,000 to get my $1 million check, and I do it.
It's your fault, Bill. You're
fault.
a dumbass. Yes, you know, you are the dumbass for being.
If somebody's trying to sell me $2,000 worth of IAQ products, and I'm like, well, I don't know. You got fancy shoes and a nice shirt, so you got to be right.
Yeah.
Like Ryan Kurtz said, it's all about the lipstick and mascara. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this I think has been a great show, but I think it's about time we start to wrap it up, guys.
Sure. Okay.
I definitely feel like, again, it was mentioned earlier, I feel like we can have a whole nother conversation with you, Michael, about a couple other things too, because I really would like to have you on the show again. So
yeah. How are you with psychrometrics?
I mean, I literally just spent several weeks in the psychrometrics chapter of the ASHRAE 2017, and it was mind-boggling.
We need,
to say the least.
I can promise you that next time I'm going to take 2 of the THC gummies, so that way I'm even more focused, because one is fucking awesome.
No, I'm going to be on so much Adderall next time.
Cheating,
dude.
You got to read that book beforehand next time, Bill, and get up to speed.
I was trying, but I kept on thinking about other things. Like I'm reading them, like, man, what kind of pepperonis are the best on pizza? And
I think Chris should take 2 gummies, and then we talk about boilers.
Yes,
that seems like a good show to me.
Because then also here is they're talking about air. Air's moving through the pipes. Duh, that totally makes sense. It's the same shit. It's different density, right? Yep.
Yeah, I want to talk about like some loading questions, like mini split discussion, mini splits, and different scenarios and balancing points and all that stuff. But there's little time for so much.
So, well, hopefully you'll come back on again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was a great time. I enjoyed being here and enjoy your show every week. So it was an honor to kind of be on here with you guys and give you a little bit of crap along the way.
Nice. I think that's the first time somebody has said it's been an honor to be on.
Oh, get out of here. There has been somebody.
Yeah.
Well,
remember that one time we interviewed a bus driver?
Gone.
Oh,
nice. So we're still live.
Yeah, those different. Those look different.
So when can we start talking about the guests and how much they suck?
Hey,
man, those are going by so fast I can't even read them.
I wish I read them. I missed it.
It's hard. Like it really didn't seem like it was over an hour conversation going on.
Yeah, go on forever. I think we're still live.
Just to be clear, because this is the first time we've done this, everybody, we are live.
We might be live. Yes, be careful.
I know we all know, but let's just be sure we're still.
I don't all know. We don't. I don't know for sure.
Yeah,
oh man, we should have left it that way, because this is when Joe really gets fun.
I agree. Psychometrics, Eric Kaiser. I would love to. Let's do that next. Whatever year he comes back, we can do it.
Yeah.
Psychometrics and
we'll
boilers.
Simplify it for a lot of people.
Let's do it. Psychometrics and boilers, man.
Just make sure you let me know, and I will enjoy the boiler conversation with 2 gummies for sure.
I mean, I'm right there. I'm in the same boat, Chris.
You gotta send, if you're doing 2, you gotta send me 4.
Okay, I'll do that. Wait. Is it against federal law to do that? Because I'll ship crap, but I don't know if I'm going to violate and go to prison.
I'm just teasing. You don't have to send me nothing. I'll be on it anyways.
Yeah.
You know.
Till next week, guys.
All right. Thanks again. We'll see y'all later.
Stay clean.
See you guys. Thanks.
Bye-bye, neighbor.